All right, look at Casper right there, guys. So today we're going to talk about a common question people ask is how long do alligators sleep for? Where do they go when they want to go to sleep? And, all this kind of stuff about their sleep habits. But here's the thing. They don't sleep, or at least not like what you're thinking. They don't sleep like what we do. They do what's called unihemispheric sleeping, which means half the brain goes to sleep at a time. So they're actually always awake, always aware, and always conscious. So they don't do this unconscious sleeping like what we do where they like knock out. They don't do that. So these guys are always awake and always aware. And it's really, really cool. Actually, dolphins do the same thing. So half the brain goes to sleep at a time. And that is going to allow them to be able to be aware for hunting 24 hours a day too. Because I had somebody asking me like, well, when do alligators mainly hunt? And I'm like, well, really all the time. Come here. Now their hunting is going to pick up in frequency mainly between dusk and dawn. So they prefer to hunt at night, and then right there again, dusk and dawn are really good times for them to hunt as well. But that is because they're using that cover of darkness, and in dusk and dawn you can get the confusion of nocturnal and diurnal animals either going to sleep or waking up. So a predator can utilize that that confusion state right there, right? But either way, that's when they might be most active. But again, they're truly active all day. And what's really cool about this is I obviously I'm not the one that discovered this, but I kind of discovered it on my own without already knowing somebody else knew it. So I've been working with alligators for several years, and I never heard any of the alligator experts I knew talk about their sleeping habits. I've never heard anybody talk about it, but I was watching them. I'm with them all day at the park, and then I would go out at night and go hiking out in the Everglades at night in the water, or go out to do research and catch alligators at night, and they're awake. And I'm like, but wait, I was with them all day and they're awake, and then I'm at night all night and they're awake too. And I just kind of that moment where I'm like, hey, wait a minute, something going on here, and I'm like, what? So when do they sleep? So that's when I looked it up, and then I found, there was actually publications talking about this and unihemispheric sleeping and all that kind of information I just told you guys. So that was really cool for me because I didn't know any of that, and I never heard the kind of normal alligator experts ever talk about it. So it was really cool for me to learn about it. Here, we can back up a little bit so we can keep him in frame and talk about him too. We'll just hang out over here on the beach together. There we go. What's up, bro? How you doing? Are you sleeping right now? Because I don't know if you are. I can't tell. That's the other thing. People ask is, well, when he is asleep, half of his brain is asleep at a time, are you aware of it? Can you tell? Do they act differently? And no, I really can't. Sometimes you'll see him where, like right now, see how one eye is closed and one eye is open? What does that mean? As far as I know, doesn't mean anything. I don't think that's indicative of their, sleeping habits or anything like that, because he's moving around right now anyways. Hi, buddy. But yeah, so based on what I see and what I notice, as far as I can tell, wants to get you, George. I have not noticed anything in their behavior to suggest for me to be able to tell when they're actually half asleep or not, right? Now with dolphins, they've done a lot of studies on dolphins and research into their sleeping habits. And again, they're the one that has much more published data on their unihemispheric sleeping. And they found that a lot of times during the actual training sessions they were doing with the trainer, that's when the dolphin would be half asleep anyways. That was like their relaxing time, which is kind of interesting, right? Now, why is this beneficial to the animal? So like we were just talking about with hunting, gotta watch him when he's down there. He likes to go under the water and creep up, and that's when you really got to watch out. That's when they get really dangerous and they're underwater like that. So always got to really pay attention. But being always aware is incredibly helpful for an animal like this as an ambush predator, because that means that he is always watching, always aware. So at night, obviously, they're more active at hunting, like I was just saying, but during the day, he can always be aware and wait for something to fall in the water, to be able to be aware for a struggling or splashing animal or anything like that. So that's going to definitely be super helpful for them in a hunting strategy. But then also, if we think about, in his case, as an alligator, they get into territorial fights and whatnot. And so I'm trying to think of the best way to exactly say this. So they're also a conscious breather is where I'm going with this. And so every breath he takes is a conscious decision of his to take. So like you're an unconscious breather, you breathe automatically without thinking about it. And you also continue to breathe when you are unconscious. They don't do that. So this is really interesting, right? So what this means is if he got into a fight with another alligator and he got knocked unconscious, like hitting the head hard enough to knock him out, and he sinks underwater, he doesn't automatically start breathing and drown himself, but we do. So I'm a free diver too. That's one of my other favorite things I do, is go out free diving with the sharks. And hi, buddy. And so when I'm out there doing this, we got to be really aware and really careful about shallow water blackout. Okay, and that's something that can happen with free divers. Really scary stuff. And you can black out from lack of oxygen to the brain. But the thing with humans is, as soon as you go unconscious, you start automatically breathing, and then you drown yourself in the water. They don't do that. So this is really, really cool. So that way, if he were to be knocked out, in a fight, something like that, he doesn't automatically breathe in the water and drown himself. Now, what this also means, though, is if we sedate him, then he doesn't breathe on his own, and then he dies, okay? Because, on one hand, a lot of people are always wondering about, like, oh, he's drugged or sedated, and that's how you're able to do all this stuff with him. No, how about it's just a simple answer that I know how to work with animals and I train them. But yeah, so as far as the sedation thing goes, if you were to sedate him and you did it just a little bit too far and he went unconscious, he stops breathing on his own, and then he'll just stop breathing and die, right? Gonna go run right into George there. Okay. Now, that, goes against this whole, oh, they're sedated, that's why they're calm thing. But also for us, in the actual legitimate sense, we have to worry about this if we have to take him to the vet or something like that. You can't just sedate him to bring him to the vet, because we got to load him up in the truck fully aware and fighting you, because we've had to do this before. He does not want to go to the vet. That is not a fun time, because you can't just drug him and make it easy, because then you kill him. And then when we're actually at the vet and we do have to sedate one, then we hook them up to an intubation machine is what we're going to do. And that is a machine that's going to breathe artificially for him. And that way you can sedate him, intubate him, and then it breathes artificially for him so he doesn't just die because now that he's unconscious and not breathing, right? So this is all really cool, really interesting stuff that ties in together with this whole unihemispheric sleeping and just their consciousness in general, and whether or not, they are aware or unaware, and, all this kind of stuff comes in together, right? So really cool, really interesting topic I like to talk about. And it's not one that you often hear people talking about. So that's why I definitely enjoy talking about it. So right now he's underwater. He's got both of his eyes closed, like fully closed. Does that mean he's sleeping? No, he's aware. I take my hand over here and very carefully see him do a little snap right there. So even though his eyes are closed, he is very much aware. Okay, so you're gonna be nice and careful, and it's super creepy. Look at him coming up next to my foot like that. Let's just bring you up here. Hi. Yes, I don't like it when you do that. Very creepy. All right, but and look, he's gonna go back under again. He's like, I'm gonna go hunt your feet. But yeah, so another really interesting and weird topic with this whole sleeping thing is when these guys go into brumation or estivation. And so this is where in northern areas, they will actually dig a den up into the bank, and they can den themselves up into the mud and wait out the winter like that. And then in the tropics, crocodilians are known to do estivation, basically the opposite, where it's a way to deal with really hot and low water levels. And so in that case, they're gonna do the same thing, just kind of cake themselves down into the mud and muck, and they can be in these like mud pits like that, where you're just caked in the mud for months at a time while they're waiting. So through that time, they're not sleeping. It's not hibernation. It's not like a bear. A bear just gets nice and fat and just goes to sleep. They're awake that entire time, just staring at mud walls, awake the entire time. So probably not fun, okay? I don't know if anybody's done any real neurological studies on like their brain waves when they're going through that process. I'd be really curious to see what exactly that's like. But as far as I currently understand, they're just in there for like 3 months at a time, just staring at the mud, and that's your life for 3 months, man. Definitely not fun. But anyways, I think that encapsulates just about everything I know on this subject. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it, learned something about the alligators. As always, guys, like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate the support, and we'll see you guys in the next one.